Howdy champs, my name is Mohit and people, today I'm going to show you how to make a quiz in Flash using ActionScript 3 and XML. So we've used XML to pull up external data and push it inside the quiz. In fact, before I dive deeper into the explanation of the ActionScript, let me first show you a published preview by hitting Control Enter on my keyboard to export the SWIFT and test the movie. Alright, so up front people, you can see we have a question for which we have just 10 seconds to answer. Let me select the first option, and for the second question as well I get 10 more seconds. Alright, so and alright, so you see I scored full out here simply because this quiz was created by me. And let's say if the user does not interact with the quiz at all, let's see what happens. So this is the first question. I'm gonna let all the 10 seconds elapse and do nothing at all. So you can see automatically it pushes itself onto the next frame, onto the next question, and once these 10 seconds also elapse, the third question is into the picture, and I'm not going to interact with the quiz at all. So you see, if you don't interact with the quiz at all, obviously your score is going to be 0. Right, and this time let me export the SWIFT a third time. Hit Control Enter on my keyboard. Let me select all wrong options, and let's see what happens then. Obviously the score is going to be 0. So you see, it's working to a perfection, and everything, all the data is actually being pulled up externally. Even the data that relates to whether an answer is true or false is also kept external. You see, this is the XML file. We have an opening quiz tag out here, a closing quiz tag out here, an opening question tag out here, opening, closing, opening, and a closing out here, opening and a closing out here. Right, and this is the question, what does Adobe Flash do? Okay, this is the second question, what does Dreamweaver do? And this is the third question, what does Fireworks do? Okay, so from the XML, all these questions as well as the answers are being pulled up dynamically through ActionScript. Right, so you see these are the various answers possible to that question. So create 2D animation, write HTML CSS for us, cooks food in a snap, and this is the fourth answer, possible answer, an option which is edit Word file. Okay, now we have attributes like v1, v2, v3, v4 which have a value. Basically v1 stands for value 1, value 2, value 3, etc. v1 is true, v2 is false, v3 is false, and v4 is false. Okay, so basically these values v1, v2, v3 and v4, since they would let us know whether the answer a1, a2, a3, a4 are right or wrong. Right, so which means that the truth about an option, about an answer, it being true or false, is also provided in the XML itself. Right, similarly for this question opening tag, this a1 is one of the options, but at the same time the v1 is false, basically letting us know that v1 corresponds to a1, letting us know that a1 is the wrong answer. Okay, a2 is the other answer option. v2 lets us know that this is the right option. So a1, a2, a3, a4 correspond to the answers, the various answer options, and v1, v2, v3 and v4 correspond to true or false, and thus letting us know, or rather letting Flash know, which one is the correct answer. So once the value is true, Flash would know that that answer is actually correct. In fact, once I dive deeper into ActionScript, you will get a much better idea. Okay, the good news, people out here, is that the XML file along with the FLA file is available as a free download from my website qualitylessons.net/downloads. Okay, so let's get back into Flash now. People, this is frame number 1, and in total we have 4 frames, okay, and 4 layers as well. Okay, the bottommost layer belongs to the background. It's a background image. Obviously there was no compulsion, it is not mandatory, but just for the decoration I've used it out there. Okay, but if you do not like it, you can completely do away with the background. It goes without saying, right? Then I have on the penultimate layer, the second last layer, the countdown timer, which actually is going to count the total seconds remaining for one single question. You get 10 seconds for a question, and it's going to count them down. The name of this field, I've kept it as timer. Okay. Then we have a quiz assets layer. Now what this does is it's actually holding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 radio buttons. Now you would argue you cannot see the radio buttons, nor can you actually see a button, a submit button out here. Let me tell you people, I have deliberately kept these radio buttons invisible. In fact, if let me select one of the radio buttons like so, and okay, if now you can see out here in the component parameters that it's been made invisible. By default it's visible. See, now you can actually see the radio button. Let me select the other one. Okay, let me make it visible as well. Okay, the third one, make it visible as well, and the fourth one, make it visible as well. Now people, the radio buttons, I got it from here. Okay, I just pulled it out from here. Okay, I've not given them any labels. As you can clearly see out here, there's no label. Okay, this is the default label. Why did I make them invisible? I have a reason for that. There's one more radio button out here which also has been rendered invisible. You can see this radio button out here. At the same time, I've also disabled that button. Okay, I've also disabled that button. There's a reason why I have kept all the radio buttons invisible. So let me make them invisible all over again. Okay, I'll tell you a little later why I've kept all these buttons invisible. Cool. Okay, also the group name by default is radio button group. I've changed it to radio button group 1 because I have 3 such groups. So there's one change that you need to make once you bring in all the buttons, the radio buttons in, that you need to just change the radio button group to radio button group 1. Right. Okay, now this is a classic dynamic text field, the instance name for which is QN1, question 1. Okay, these 4 radio buttons have been called or have an instance name of ANS1, ANS2, ANS3 and ANS4 respectively. There's a button out here which is again has been rendered invisible. Okay, let me make it visible for you. Right, submit answer has instance name of BTN1 people. Okay, I'll tell you why I have made all these buttons and the radio buttons invisible. Also, as I told you, there's a radio, there's a radio button out here, but the difference, is a little different simply because it's been selected. All the other radio buttons, they were, the selected option was set off, but only for this button, I've set the selected option on. The reason for that is I needed to actually have at least one button which had to be pre-selected, and this is the button right here at the top, radio button right here at the top, that I have chosen to be as the selected button, but at the same time notice it's not enabled. Okay, so I'm sure there are a lot of questions in your mind. Why am I setting so many radio buttons invisible? Why am I setting it selected? Why am I setting it disabled? This button, that is. Okay, whereas the rest of the buttons, although are enabled, but they are not selected and they are invisible. So a lot of mystery for me to answer, and the mystery unfolds once I dive inside the actions panel. Okay, let's open up the actions panel for you. Okay, now upfront people, I've used the import directive to import the requisite classes that are required to make this quiz builder actually work. Okay, I've used the stop function so that the playhead does not rush to the second frame from the first frame, so the playhead stops there. Upfront, I'm keeping the score variable at 0. it's because this quiz has a scoring system. Okay, I've declared a variable myXML. I've just data typed it to XML. I've not given it a value yet. I'm declaring yet another variable myLoader, data typing it to URL loader and making it equal to a new URL loader. So basically what I'm doing is I'm creating a new instance of the URL loader class, which is then required to pull up binary data like an XML file. Then through the load method in myLoader, I'm requesting for the quiz.xml. People, let me tell you that the assets, basically the flower file and the XML file, is available as a free download. I'll put it up together inside a zip file. I'll bundle it up, and that zip file you can download from http://qualitylessons.net. Okay, so you don't need to bother about writing so much of a action script. Okay, next, people, what I've done is I've added an event listener to my loader, the variable myLoader, and it checks if the loading is complete. Once that is complete, I'm processing a function called process.xml, and what that does is it makes myXML, the variable that I've declared out here in line number 9, equal to event.target.data, which is nothing but quiz.xml. This is data typing that data to XML, right? Since the myXML is supposed to accept only XML data, right? So basically all the everything inside quiz.xml will be loaded inside myXML now. Okay, next, people, what I'm doing is I'm in qn1 through the text property. This is qn1, people. Through the text property, I'm making it equal to myXML.question at index number 0. So basically question at index number 0 is this question. So people who know how to work with XML shouldn't have a difficulty understanding what I'm trying to say. This is question at index 0, index 1, index 2. Alright, and this is the question. So basically what does Adobe Flash do? I'm loading it inside out here. Okay, cool. And then when the XML file has completely loaded is when I'm making all the radio buttons visible. So ANS1, ANS2, ANS3, ANS4 are the 4 radio buttons that I've used, as well as the button BTN1. All of them which had been rendered invisible, I'm making it visible only after the XML has completely loaded. So that was the reason. I did not want the person to interact with the the radio buttons unless and until the XML had completely loaded. And once the XML file is completely loaded inside the variable myXML is when I would want all the buttons as well as the radio buttons to become visible, right? So that there lies the answer, and the mystery unfolds, or rather the answer unfolds, to the mystery. Okay, so next up, people, what I'm doing is I am actually labeling the radio buttons through the label property ANS1, ANS2, 3 and 4. So those are the 4 invisible radio buttons which will become visible once the XML file completely loads. And the label of all these buttons, I'm making it equal to my first question, but attribute A1, A2, A3, A4. So basically I'm referencing A1, A2, A3, A4. Okay, so these will go and they become the labels for the radio buttons. Okay, that is why when I actually hit Control Enter to test the Swift, you can see that these are the radio buttons A1, A2, A3 and A4 for the first question. Okay, cool. Okay, next, people, at the same time I'm giving these 4 radio button values through the value property. Okay, every radio button has a value. As you can see out here, has a value that I can put right here also. It has a label that I can put right here also, but I'm using ActionScript to do so. Okay, so I'm making the value equal to the first question V1, the first question V2, V3 and V4. So basically what I'm referencing is I'm referencing this and this. So this gives Flash the idea whether the answer is going to be right or wrong, so going to be true or false, right, as you can see out here. So this will tell Flash whether the selected answer or the selected option is going to be right or wrong. Okay, right. What about this radio button? Okay, this radio button out here is a dud. Is there for a purpose, but it does not interact with the user. Then why did I actually keep it out here? See, I needed to select at least one radio button, but not these four out here which are actually invisible and you cannot see them. But I needed to make at least one radio button visible, otherwise the script would not fire properly. So what I did was I actually pulled up a radio button, made it invisible and disabled it as well. So my purpose was fulfilled. I needed to make one radio button I needed to make one radio button selected. Okay, all these four radio buttons out here, as you can see out here, the selected option is off, right? It's off. But I had to set at least one radio button as selected. So what I did was I just pulled it up, pushed it on right at the top and made it selected. So see, if I don't make any of the radio buttons selected and straight away test the quiz, there'll be a big error. There's an error that is unwanted. So to avoid that error, I needed to make one radio button selected, and so I made it selected, but at the same time I disabled it and made it invisible as well. So it just serves that purpose. It's actually doing no purpose apart from making sure that I do not pull up an error if I don't select any of the radio buttons and just say next. You see, what is happening is when I was testing the quiz, and if I did not select any of the radio buttons and I just said submit answer, there was an error coming up. I didn't want that error, so that is the reason why I actually pushed that radio button right here at the top. Anyways, so similarly, let's discuss in fact I need to discuss the action script further on frame 1. Okay, also at the same time I'm firing the timer once the XML has completely loaded. When the function process XML has this my timer.start, so the timer is supposed to kick off only when the the XML has been processed completely through the complete event. Okay, but where exactly is the timer? The timer is right here at the bottom. Okay, so I've declared a timer which fires every 1 second. I've added an event listener to the timer, and after every lapse of 1 single second, I would want a function timer handler to fire. And what that does is, people, it actually displays the number of seconds remaining. Okay, so it starts off at 10 seconds and then 10 minus my timer.current count. My timer.current count, people, is the cycle of the timer in which it is. So if it's in the first cycle, the first time the timer fires, the current count is 1, then it becomes 2, 3, 4, etc. So 10 minus 1, 10 minus 2, 10 minus 3. So it'll just display the message 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See, let me fire it off for you. Up front, as you can notice, in this timer classic dynamic text field, if I hit Control Enter, you can actually see that it does a countdown. So 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then the next question. Okay, so that is the reason why it was necessary for me to have a timer. Okay, and inside the timer I have an if condition which checks. So if the timer.current count modulo operator 10 is equal to 0, which basically means if the current count is either 10, 20 or 30. That is what it actually means. I would want the timer to be reset, I would want it to restart, and to display the message 10 seconds remain all over again. So it'll go from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. At the same time, if 10 seconds elapse, I would also want it to go to the next frame automatically. So a user has to interact with the question within 10 seconds, people. Okay, and also if the if the user clicks on btn1, now what is btn1? It's an invisible button out here. Okay, you can see out here it's invisible. It's a submit answer button, people. This button I would want to go visible only once the XML file has been processed completely. So as you can see out here, once the process XML function fires on the completion of the quiz XML being completely loaded is when I make the button visible, not otherwise. Okay, right, so that's the action script that is lying on frame number 1. Similarly, let's discuss the action script on frame number 2 as well as discuss frame number 2. as well. Okay, so basically everything is just the same. This time I did not need to keep the labels invisible, okay, because by now the XML file had completely loaded. This is where the question will pop up. It has an instance name of QN2. This is where the labels will pop up. Let me show you the action script. Okay, so the question will be pulled up from the XML file. So this will be the second question from the myXML. myXML is going to hold up all the XML data. Question number question number 2 actually. Okay, and this is as far as the labels for the radio buttons are concerned, the radio buttons have an instance name of ANS 5, 6, 7 and 8. The labels respectively are A1, A2, A3 and A4 of the second question. Basically I'm referencing A1, A2, A3 and A4 of the second question. Okay, similarly the values are V1, V2, V3 and V4, which either hold true or false. Okay, there's one thing that I forgot to tell you on frame number 1. Okay, there's a check out here. There's a check which says if the group of the ANS1, so you see ANS1 is basically this invisible radio button. Just let me make it momentarily visible. The group of it is this radio button is radio button group 1. Okay, so the action script says, it says if the group of ANS1, whichever group it is, if the selection of it has a value equaling true, then increase the score by 10 and go to the next frame. Else do not increase the score by 10 but simply go to the next frame. So basically, okay, since there are 4 radio buttons out here, if the value of the radio button checked is true, increment the score, go to the next frame. Otherwise just go to the next frame, do not increment the score. That is how the check on the truth and the false, whether the option selected was the right option, is made. Okay, so let's get back to frame number 2. So the labels as well as the questions are being pulled up through the XML people. Okay, so this is the formula. So A1, A2, A3 and A4 are the possible options for the second question. These are the values V1, V2, V3, V4. All of them are false except 1. Okay, and when somebody clicks on BTN2, BTN2 is this button. The submit answer button has an instance name of BTN2. Is when a check will be performed, and the check will be if the group of ANS5, now this is ANS5, okay, the group for this is radio button group 2. The earlier group was radio button group 1. If the group of it, and within the group the item that is selected, if the value of it is true. Okay, so basically if the users selects the right answer within the group, so selection within the group where the ANS5 belongs, ANS5, 6 and 7 and ANS5, 6, 7 and 8, these radio buttons belong to the same group people, which is radio button group 2. So what is happening out here is we are asking Flash to check if the group to which ANS5 belongs, to which AS6, 7 and 8, ANS6, 7 and 8 also belong, if the selection of it has a value equal to true. Okay, so these are the values people, V1, V2, V3, V4, basically value 1, value 2, value 3, value 4. Only 1 is true. So if the selection value is true, then increment the score. So basically if the user chose the right option, increment the score by 10, go to the next frame. Else if that is not true, if it's false, then simply go to the next frame without incrementing the score variable. Simple. Okay, let's go to frame number 3. People, the arrangement, the hierarchy and everything, the logic, everything for the frame 3 is the same as frame number 1 and 2. So here we pull up the question, the third question. Here we pull up the answers, different answers to the third question from the XML. Here we pull up the values true or false for the third question. Okay, and if the user interacts with the button, which is this button, this is frame number 3, has an instance name of BTN3. If somebody clicks on btn3. We reset the timer, we start it again, we check if the option basically within the group, the selected option, if it has a value of true, then increment the score by 10, go to the next frame, else simply go to the next frame and do nothing. Okay, so basically let's go to the fourth frame now. In the fourth frame we are supposed to get the score, so let's see what the action script says. So the total score dot text, what is total score? Total score is this text field, people. You can see it's classic dynamic, has an instance name of total score. You can see the font family is a Bremer. The font has been embedded, font size 22. Okay, right, so the total score is equal to the score variable divided by 30. So 30 out of 30 or 20 out of 30 or whatever. We stop the timer since there are no more questions, no more answers. Why should we let the timer go on? And then we clear the timer text field. We don't need the timer to do the countdown now, so we just clear the text field out here on frame number 4. All right, okay, so a lot of explanation, people. I'm sure you understand that there was so much for me to explain, there was so much for me to say, there was so much script written out here that I couldn't simply write it all over again. I simply had to do the explanation, and even though it still took me around 26 minutes to do, 27 minutes to do all the explanation. The good news, let me give you the good news again. The assets, the XML file, the FLA file will be bundled and kept up on my website qualitylessons.net/downloads, where you can get it as a free download. All right, so people, I hope you like this tutorial, enjoyed it too, and I hope to see you come back for my tutorials many more times. You have a good day, guys, and a very happy new year that'll follow in a few days. Bye bye, peace.